Hey folks, I've been thinking a bit about the future of the TypeScript Playground, where like one of the ideas that we sort of initially dismissed back when we first sort of recreated it was the idea that VS Code could be our like base to then build the playground on top of. This was just not really very feasible back then, in part because we needed the playground to be accessible on the web, and at that point VS Code was not publicly available to run on the web. And as well, it was also there wasn't really a way to create these sort of virtual environments, and a lot of that has changed like quite recently. The GitHub.dev has come out as well as the ability for extensions to provide remote environments for running code. So to give you a rough idea of what I mean by that, if you open up GitHub.dev, you'll see that like the way it's actually powered. If you've never used this, this is sort of running a repo in a virtual environment. So in this case, I have a virtual file system that represents GitHub/dev, which is a real repo that has this README. But the way that it works is that there is it ships with a bunch of default extensions. So these ones are the ones that are built in. I have my own gist-pad installed. But what's interesting here is that there isn't something special for GitHub.dev here. Actually, there is just a set of extensions that create the like GitHub-centered environment for it. With notably this one here, the GitHub repositories extension. And it's this extension that provides the sort of virtual file system that's available for running github.dev. And that exact extension is actually totally available to run locally. Let me get that up. I installed it here. It's somewhere in this massive list of 59 extensions. And one of the things it does is it lets you click here, which opens a remote menu. So I think this is the same system that's used for WSL on Windows as well as for SSHing in, which I think is what powers the big whatever the one where it embeds it inside GitHub. I really need to be on brand. The thing that I wanted to show for was that like I can go into this sort of GitHub repo, and I can just pass in his peril, and what it's done is it's taken me out of that existing project and sort of brought me into this new sort of GitHub project style system. It's a new window with a virtual file system now, so every time it gets a file, it takes a little bit longer because it's got to make an API request. But at the same time, it has created this sort of virtual environment in which I can sort of do some of my interesting bits of work, but it's all doing it entirely through a single GitHub extension. A single extension built with GitHub in mind. And this sort of brings some interesting questions now, because like now it is technically feasible and maybe a good idea to start considering what if we started porting over the playground to actually be a VS Code extension, and a lot of the sort of value in it then can not only be valuable in the context of it would run on a web page, it would still run on a web page, but it can also be available inside your projects and inside and local. So think about the tools that I've built to sort of introspect TypeScript code inside the playground. All of that stuff would move into VS Code extensions and would be available in your own code, or as a sort of quick snapshot project like this, where it would run virtual files in the same way that it does today. So there's a lot of interesting things there. Like one interesting argument that I've been making in my head towards it is that the playground is built in a very custom way. It's not actually custom; it's all vanilla DOM code, but it is built in a way that you have to read and understand. But if you made it as a VS Code extension, you only have to know the VS Code extension API to contribute to it. You don't have to be deeply enmeshed in how DOM APIs work, which is very convenient when the rest of your team are compiler engineers. which would free up more contributors and also give it a much, also help its long-term maintenance in the fact that like any other contributor would be able to work on it in a quite a reasonable way. So I'm exploring it. I might try making prototypes, see what that looks like, but that's my rough brain dump on sort of VS Code powered playgrounds. It could be possible. I talked with Joao Moreno about it. He is one of the sort of authors of GitHub.dev, and it could work out. It seemed I was a little hesitant at first, but then like after the conversation with him, it seemed to be quite a feasible idea. So that's my brain dump. Still need to make a prototype to get a sense of it, but who knows? Could be the future. All right, ciao.